My name is Begita Theroff, and this is an exploration of scapegoating female figures in history and fiction. What is a scapegoat? A scapegoat is a person who is blamed for mistakes, accidents, and wrongdoings, often because of others, mostly because they are easy to blame. Women are often scapegoats because many societies believe women to be lesser than men, only there as property to birth and raise the next generation of people. Even while a lot of people today do not hold those beliefs, it can still be seen in our society with healthcare, in the workplace, family troubles, politics, religions, and moral lessons. Eve is often considered the original sin, as she disobeys God and eats the forbidden fruit. This evidence is used as a basis for the idea that men are morally better than women. In reality, it is the serpent who approaches Eve and tricks her into believing that it would be right for her to taste the fruit. She does, and then goes to Adam to do the same. Adam knew the consequences of this transgression and never informed Eve of the seriousness of the situation. Adam willingly eats the forbidden fruit, but is not deceived by anyone and takes the fruit by his own free will. While both are punished for their transgression, it is Eve who takes the most blame, even when it is Adam who willingly disobeyed God. In some interpretations, the reasons that Adam should be blamed go further, and that it was Adam, the man, who failed to protect his wife from harm. Okiku was the dishwasher charged with the care of 10 priceless plates in the folk story of the dish mansion at Banqiao. Okiku was approached by a man, his origin is unclear, but he was a man of power, and refused his advances. After many attempts, the man became impatient and threatened to destroy one of the plates and frame Okiku for the destruction if she did not marry him. She refused a final time, and the man killed her. He throws her body down a well and never faces any punishment. Okiku's ghost was rumored to still wander about, looking for her lost 10th plate. This story warned ancient women of the dangers of telling a man no, a common theme in older stories. In the past, and even sometimes seen today, when a woman refuses the advances of a man, she often winds up either harmed or dead. Joan of Arc began hearing voices at a young age. She interpreted those voices as the voice of God telling her to save France from England during the 100 Years' War. Being a young peasant woman, she was often ignored and turned away, but she eventually was able to convince others for her cause. She later led the siege of Orleans and was very successful. But when a woman has success, there are those who will seek her downfall. Joan was abandoned by the men she fought alongside and was captured by the English. The French government was informed multiple times, but did nothing in attempt to help Joan. She was later executed. The fear of a woman in power often leads to disastrous consequences, and she was then abandoned by the very country she risked her entire life for. The town of Salem, Massachusetts was thrown into a frenzy hunting down apparent witches. The use of unreliable witnesses and hand-picked verses from the Bible as evidence, the town of Salem convicted and executed 19 people. Each person executed opposed the trials in some way except for the first 3 women. Each of the 3 were disliked by a person of power in the town. The use of the Bible as evidence against them shows just how toxic the Puritan religion had become in America. Every woman executed was tried for witchcraft and sin, while the few men that were executed were tried only for fraternizing with the so-called witches. This unfairness has been seen since the beginning of written history. Sexism in religion is what helped fuel the fires of the trial, but the original cause is still unknown. The closest explanation is mass hysteria, an event that was previously only tied to women, but in recent years has been just tied to large groups. Catherine Howard was the 5th wife of Henry VIII. She was described as a very beautiful child and had a history of being sexually taken advantage of, first by her music teacher and later a family friend. She married Henry VIII when she was very young and was then approached by Thomas Culper, a friend of the king. Culper had a history of sexual assault but escaped punishment by favor with the king. A series of letters between Catherine and Thomas show that he had control over Catherine, and her favors to him may have been a way of Catherine ensuring her own safety or flat-out sexual assault. Catherine was sentenced and beheaded for adultery, though Thomas was never charged. Medusa started as a normal human woman, blessed by beauty. Because of this beauty, she was targeted by many men, one in particular being the sea god Poseidon. While seeking refuge in the temple of Minerva, Medusa was raped by the god. It is unclear whether this act enraged Minerva or if the goddess took pity on the human, but Minerva transforms Medusa into a gorgon. The Gorgon's power is to turn to stone anyone who looks at them. Medusa secludes herself in a cave, but the allure of defeating a monster leads men to her door, attempting to slay the rumored beast. All were turned to stone by Medusa, trying to survive the onslaught of intruders. Medusa was beheaded by Perseus, in a challenge by the king that Perseus could not retrieve the head. Medusa's final part of life was simply to become a trophy. In recent years, the head of Medusa has become a symbol for those who have survived sexual assault. Queen Guinevere is the wife of Arthur in the legend of King Arthur. In many modern depictions, she is depicted as an adulteress who has a romantic relationship with Sir Lancelot, a right-hand man of King Arthur. In reality, this was a very common practice in English courts from the 1300s to the 1500s called courtly love. Courtly love was a strict set of rules that allowed nobles to express love not found in marriage, as during that time marriage was seen as a business agreement or a way to sire new lines instead of a romantic relationship. Rule 31 of courtly love states that nothing forbids one woman from being loved by two men or one man by two women. This gives Queen Guinevere the complete right to be in love with Lancelot whilst being married to King Arthur. A relationship between the two of them would have been quite normal and even in some cases encouraged. Helen of Troy is often blamed for the Trojan War, when in reality it is Paris, her kidnapper, who is to blame. Paris kidnaps Helen whilst at a party thrown by Helen's husband. This breaks one of the very important culture rules in Greece of xenia. Xenia is the basic respect and trust between a guest and a host. In doing so, this is what caused the start of the Trojan War. But at the end, when the question of blame is thrown about, it is Helen, who up until this point has been treated like an object, who is blamed. Marie Antoinette was used as the face for the enemy of the people of France. In reality, while she did spend large amounts of money, it was her gender and sexuality that was used to discredit her as a political power and grow hatred among the people. This hate was propagated by a smear campaign depicting her as an adulterous and promiscuous individual. The campaign used graphic depictions of the Queen with many individuals she associated with in the French courts. While King Louis was criticized, it was Marie Antoinette who was used as the enemy's face during the Revolution. Whilst attempting to earn the affection of a boy she admired, Tomie is pushed away and falls from a ledge in the woods. The rest of her class assumes her dead and decides to dispose of the body themselves. They cut her up into 20 pieces, one for each student, and dispose of her across town. No one misses Tomie, and life continues as normal. The graphic novel Tomie by Junji Ito then splits into several short stories. In each one, a disposed piece of Tomie returns to life and attempts to continue her life. In each one, men are drawn to Tomie and are overcome with an urge to possess her. Each time, Tomie attempts to escape, and each time she is killed by the men who desire her. Whilst it can be viewed that Tomie leads others on, it makes sense that she attempts to gain favor by flirting, as in her life before she was taken advantage of many times. Using her charm is the only way Tomie has been taught to survive. Junji Ito's work makes a twisted commentary on a man's ideal woman. As the most popular girl in school, Regina George has a reputation and image to uphold. While she is the villain of the movie Mean Girls, the movie makes an interesting commentary on the expectations of women in the early 2000s. On the outside, Regina is the most idealistic teen. Popular, pretty, confident, fashionable. She was the perfect woman. She also fit into several stereotypes: a dumb blonde, obsessed with pink and boys, always involved in drama, and a spoiled teenager. Regina may be the villain, but there is no denying the fact that she is vengeful and greedy. But it should be known that this was the effect of the expectations and pressures on of the toxic and misogynistic social climate of the 2000s. Women were always expected to compete with each other for attention and were forced into boxes or under labels.